You can make a difference in someone's life. You're important. You're significant. God has a purpose and a plan for you to touch someone else. And this is a day we're going to examine making a difference from every angle. I'm Billy Joe Daugherty, and this is 360-degree Life. You can make a difference in someone's life. You were born for a holy purpose. God knew when He made you the time in which you would be living. He designed you specifically to meet needs that would be on this planet, to touch lives of people who would be here. And that's why He gave you certain gifts, talents, and abilities. Even the experiences that you've gone through, some good, some very difficult. God's going to take those and use them to pour through your life in someone else. Why is it important? Many people live their whole lives unfulfilled because they're living selfishly. Everything's focused upon what's in it for me. What can I get out of life? But it's exactly the opposite to find fulfillment, and that is, what can I give of my life to help someone else? When you discover that divine purpose for which you were born, by discovering the passion that God put on the inside of you, and you connect those with that opportunity to touch another person's life, there is fulfillment. And this can happen immediately when you say, Lord, guide my steps. Show me where to give my life away. It may be in the neighborhood. It may be at the office. It may be at a local area where people are suffering or hurting, perhaps a hospital, a nursing home, under the bridge, in the very needy part of your city or town or village. Wherever you live, there's someone who needs your help. You see, it's important to understand everyone can make a difference. No one is insignificant. You may have thought of yourself as being unimportant, not valuable, but you are awesome. You're powerful. You're anointed by God when you open your heart up to say, Lord, take over my life and use me for your purpose. This is a time to awaken to that dream that God has put on the inside of you, to that heart that He's placed in your life. Jesus was asked the question, who is my neighbor? And He told a story. He said there was a certain man that went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And on the way, he was attacked by thieves. He was beaten and left bleeding and dying on the Jericho road. When a priest came by and saw him and moved over on the other side of the road, and then a Levite, one who served in the temple, also walked on by, and then a Samaritan, someone who was despised in that part of the land, someone who was not honored. He saw him and he came to him and he began to treat his wounds. He put him on his own donkey and carried him to an inn, and there he offered to pay for this man to be kept until he would be healed and restored. Think about it. Jesus said, which one was the neighbor? Certainly, it was that Good Samaritan. The one action of that man has been retold around the world, time and time again. Did he make a difference? Not only in the one person he touched, but in the millions of people who've heard that story in all the centuries since. You see, the ripple effect of your touching one life can go on and on and on. Like Mother Teresa, a very small Albanian woman who reached out to the people in a suffering part of India and dared to share love, kindness, food, help, and shelter, starting with only a handful of people until it became a mighty movement. In fact, she's impacted the whole world with what God did through her life. Can one person make a difference? Certainly. And you can too. This is an hour for you to begin to think about, God, what do you want me to do and where can I start? And I encourage you, don't wait. Get started now. Touch someone's life today. It may be through a phone call, a text message, an email, a visit, in some way that you give them encouragement or help or strength, just to say, I love you, I care about you. Remember, one word that comes by the power of the Holy Spirit can change a person's life.
I don't know, probably babysat my daughter, gave me a break, sent me to the spa.
Bought me a house.
Probably when somebody introduced me to Jesus.
Yeah? How'd that make you feel?
Redeemed.
Every time I've had a flat tire or any car problem, someone has always helped me.
This lady shook my hand after church and handed me a $100 bill. I didn't cry or anything, but it was a nice gesture, definitely.
Did you know this person?
Not at all.
Oh, I help people go to the circus by buying them circus tickets sometimes.
That's pretty nice.
Balloons. I give them balloons.
I commute on the bus, and there was a gentleman that didn't have the correct change, so I paid his busway. He called me his angel.
Every time I see that someone needs help beside a road or something, I'll stop and see if they need assistance.
Laughs. Free laughs.
Yes, I've always tried to be nice to others because as a Christian, we're supposed to do unto others.
Have you ever ignored anyone that needed help?
Sometimes when people panhandle, you sometimes brush them off because sometimes you don't know whether it's really a true need or if it's a scam.
There are lots of times I might pass by somebody who says they want some money, and I either, for whatever reason, maybe I'm too busy, maybe I don't stop.
Have you ever ignored anybody who you know needs help?
Of course, yeah, probably.
Oh, absolutely not. I don't. If someone's in help, I help them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I think giving somebody a helping hand up gives them an opportunity to see grace and start over again.
It's being nice and showing love to one another to let them know that people still care.
That's a tough question. I guess I could affect someone's life. I don't know how.
I believe that every action that we make, anything we do, can ultimately change someone's life. I think everything we do, whether we know it or not, affects something, yeah.
What gives you significance? Think about it. Jesus said, whoever would lose his life for his sake would find it. But whoever would try to find their life would lose it. What was he talking about? He was talking about how people will selfishly try to go their own way, do their own thing, and they end up losing what God had for them. But if you choose what God has for you, even though your own way may have been another direction, you will find the life you were born to live. This is so important to understand. God's plan and purpose for you was that he has good works for you to do. Ephesians 2:10 says he created you for those good works, and he prepared the good works for you. So you're a match. You're either moving toward those things or moving away from them. When you discover them, then there's fulfillment, and you say, this is what I was born to do. This is why I was put on the planet. It's one of the most exciting things in life. You know, as a young college student, I was in an athletic dorm, sitting on a bunk bed, and this thought came to me. What have you ever done for anyone else? I had just received Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior only a few months before. And I began to think about that word that I just heard. I heard it all over my being. What have you ever done for anyone else? And I thought about, what could I do? And in that moment, the Lord spoke to me. Why don't you reach out to little children playing basketball at the boys' club? And I remembered growing up and going to the boys' club. And so I went back and applied to be a basketball coach after that football season ended. And that experience of working with those 9 and 10-year-old children began a transformation in my life of realizing I had something to give. I don't know where the giving can be in your life, of your time, your talent, your resources. Maybe it's in a place no one else would think of. Maybe it's reaching out to those who are homeless and perhaps those who have been abandoned, those who are hurting and suffering. There's a place somewhere for you. You can make a difference. You were not born to waste your life. I think of a 91-year-old woman who shared with us, you know what? God spoke to me to go into the nursing home and give people hugs. Think about that. She's still going strong at 91, and she's got a ministry touching people who may have been forgotten, who may not have a visitor for many weeks, but she's there making a difference. You see, you can make a difference, like Ben Key, on his way, driving to work, and seeing someone in desperate need. I want you to hear Ben's story.
I was glad that we were able to be at the right place at the right time. And I realized something was not right. I told my kids to start praying, and I started praying. We were on the 71st Street Bridge, driving my kids to school. My kids were 6 and 7. I looked across to the opposite side of the bridge, and I saw a guy that was standing on the outside of the guardrail, on the outside of the chain link fence, just looking down, and I felt like I needed to get over there quickly. I felt urgency to get over there, but where we were in traffic on the opposite side of the bridge, I had to shoot a U-turn to go back to where this guy was. We called 911, and there was never a question if I would go to help him. There was not a decision to be made. I knew that from the way he looked that something wasn't right. I'm not sure why no one else stopped. I know that when I called 911, they said that quite a few other people had called. My first thought when I saw him was that the guy was wanting to jump, but I'm not sure why no one else stopped, especially people that were on the same side of the bridge as he was, where it would have been far more convenient for them to stop. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure why no one stopped. When I got up to the guy, I stopped, put on my hazards, and climbed out, and climbed over the guardrail and went up to the fence where he was located. And he was on the outside of the fence, and he had his arms back around on the other side of the chain link fence, just looking down, holding on with his arms. The only thing that he was standing on was just his heels. There was just a very little space for him to stand, and he didn't even really look at me. He was just focused looking down. He looked real somber. When I looked down, there was nothing below him but rocks. He was about 45 feet up and nothing below him except rocks. I just started talking to him and just trying to be friendly and talk to him, and my first thought was to take him to our church, try to find somebody there, a pastor that could pray with this guy and to counsel him. So I just started talking to him and asked him if he would want to go talk, get a cup of coffee or something, talk about things. And so finally he agreed, and so I was going to help him climb back over the fence. There was not much room for him to stand, and I was afraid he might fall. So I just put my arms around his and just helped him over, and he got in the car with us. He seemed calm, he seemed friendly. You could just tell he had a lot of things on his mind. After he got in the car with me and we turned around and started driving towards the church, we saw an ambulance and a bunch of police just coming from every direction to the bridge there. And I told the guy that I think the police and the ambulance are for you, and So I stopped one of the police officers, and they questioned this guy, and they ended up taking him in the ambulance. And later that evening I talked to the police officer, and they said that the guy was a Christian, but he had had some rough things happen to him recently and was planning on committing suicide. I'd just been talking to my kids about the Good Samaritan in our nightly devotions, and this is what the Good Samaritan did. He helped somebody in need, and I think it really stood out to them that, you know, that you can make a difference when you reach out to help somebody. There are people that genuinely need help, that God gives people opportunities to help others. I thought it was awesome that God put us in the right place at the right time to actually do something to help somebody.
The Good Samaritan, Luke 10:30 through 37. When a certain lawyer asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus answered, "A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. So which of these three do you think was neighbor to him who fell among the thieves?" Jesus asked. And the lawyer said, "He who showed mercy on him." Then Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise."
You can make a difference. And this day, we're talking about you finding your place, fulfilling your purpose, living out the dream that God has for you, letting the passion and the energy and the drive that God has for your life to be released, doing that which changes and touches someone's life. You know, every one of us were born with a holy purpose. You may say, "I don't have the personality like this one. I can't speak or talk or do, and this particular skill or ability." It doesn't matter. God made each of us special. You were designed like no one else. No two fingerprints alike, no two voice prints alike, no two sunsets alike. God is a God of infinite variety. So stop comparing yourself with others and discounting your life. Right where you are, there's someone who needs your love. Someone that God has appointed for you to touch. He's assigned you there. I think about a man who came out of prison. Horrible background, terrible things had happened. But he found Jesus Christ. He began to hear of God's love and grace and that God could still use him. He had to deal with shame and guilt and condemnation. But Jesus helped him to see those things lifted off his life. Today, Phil Brown picks up people out from under the bridges, off the streets that are homeless, taking them for food and for ministry at our Dream Center right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I think about Phil's compassion today, how God gave him a wonderful wife, has restored the years that were devastated, and now is using him for the glory of God. He can do the same for you. Instead of counting all the things that are against you, why not start counting all the things that God has for you? His love, His mercy, His grace, His forgiveness, His goodness, His truth, His promises. All those things are working for your life. I ask you to open up your eyes and look around you. Who could I love? Who could I care about? When my father died in 1974 and my two brothers, Jack and Charles, and I, we were there for the memorial, and that week helping my mom in South Arkansas. And then we all drove away to different states. And I remember saying to her, Mom, you can spend the rest of your life in a rocking chair, or you can get up and do something for someone else. You may have thought those were tough words, but that was just what she needed to hear. She worked in a radio station as a secretary each day, 8 to 5. That following Monday, right after the memorial service, after she worked 8 hours, she went to the nursing home and she began to reach out and pray for people. Door after door, people she didn't even know. To talk to them, to love on them. And this is what she said, you know, I never really experienced grief like I hear other people talk about. What happened? When she gave her love away, love came back to her. You can make a difference in someone's life. It'll make a difference inside of you. I remember many years ago hearing a story about a young boy who saw starfish washed up on a seashore. And he began to walk down that shore, picking up the starfish and throwing them back into the water. And an older gentleman came up to him and said, "What are you doing?" And the young boy said, "Well, I'm saving starfish." And the man looked down the beach and said, "They're hundreds. They're thousands. You're not going to make a difference. You could never save them all." You could see the disappointment in the little boy's face as he looked down at the starfish, and then he stooped down and he picked up one more and he looked at it, and then he said, "It'll make a difference to this one." And he tossed it back into the ocean. You know, you may not be able to save the whole world, but the one person you touch, it'll make a difference in their life. It'll count forever. We were washed up on the shores of humanity when Jesus came from heaven and He picked us up and He's put us back in the ocean of God's love. This is the grace and the mercy of God coming to you. And this is your day to say, "Yes, Lord, use my life. Help me to make a difference in someone today. Be the Lord of my life." That's it. Pray it out loud. Jesus, take over my life and flow your love through me. In your name, I pray. Amen.
Selling out to feed the lives of her kids at home tonight, wondering if she's alright. He wears the cardboard sign, just trying to stay alive. Will anyone help this guy as we all drive by? And the world is breaking at the seams, and we need love to fix these things. soul and I back to you, back to you, back to you.
As you surrendered your life to Jesus Christ, surrendering to say, Lord, use me, flow your love through me, you can expect it to happen. And we love to help you in that growth process. Take time to contact our website, victory.com. Remember, God has a great plan for you.